Hi friends, it's Ruby with Valhalla Organics, but also just me, myself, and I showing up here talking about some stuff with you guys. I had a little misfire a moment ago because you may hear some meowing in the background. She also likes to jump on the computer from time to time. So hopefully we'll get through this whole video. We might get a cat cameo. Hopefully she won't shut it down like she did last time. I promise you guys she is an active anti-racist. She's not trying to shut down the messaging here. So I wanted to come on here today and talk with you guys about some books that have been really meaningful for me in my life. One of the most incredibly valuable experiences for me in life has been learning from Black people, and particularly from Black women, but also from Indigenous people, Latino, Latinx, Latina people, Asian people. Many different diverse individuals have really contributed to my personal understanding of myself as a white person and what I can do in the world to be a better co-conspirator, to show up for racial justice. But I benefited from a lot of emotional labor that people of color invested into me. And that is not the only way to learn these things. It is not the only way to understand about people's experience that's different than your own experience. And so I wanted to share with you I've got a huge stack of books. I've destroyed my bookshelves in this house, you guys, to make this possible. So I've got a huge stack of books that I want to talk to you guys about. And I'm going to tell you they're not all Black authors. Some of them are white authors. Some of them are a diversity of other folks. And the reason that I'm sharing this particular set of things with you guys is because these are books that revolutionized my mind. These are books that took me outside of my context and my lived experience, what I'd seen, what I've known, what I've lived, and really allowed me to understand and to just for a moment while I'm in the pages of that book, to try on the experience of someone else, to see life from their perspective. That's one of the most valuable things about books, right? It allows you to imagine if your life was someone else's life. And that's not the same as having a lived experience. That is not the same as having a lived experience, but it is extremely valuable. And it's much better to have read about someone's life than to not know a goddamn thing about it. And it's better to read about people's experience that have already on purpose put in that emotional labor to share their story with you versus going to the people of the global majority in your life and asking them to do that work for you. Okay. So as white people, we need to try to take the burden off of people of the global majority. So we're trying to take the burden off of Black people, off of people of color, off of Indigenous people to explain their lives to us, okay? Or explain why what we're doing is trash, right? So it's important that we take the onus on ourselves to learn and grow and get better, because people have been working a long time to move white people, okay? People have been working a long time to move white people. And right now we are in a moment where white people are actually moving. So every single one of us that gets it needs to jump in the game right now, because there are a lot of white people that only listen to other white people. That is trash. That sucks. But that's also the reality. And that means that if you get it, pass it along, right? Pay it forward. Help other people figure out how to get it. So on to the books. Woo! This is one of my favorite books in the whole wide world, you guys. Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I read this when I was quite young, arguably maybe too young to have read this book. There is some content around sexual abuse, child abuse. There's some very adult content in this book. However, if you have a young teen who is a sensitive, smart individual, and you are a grown-up who can help them work through this book, I would say this is a really, really great book for young adults, for teenagers, and grown-ups, everybody. Maya Angelou is incredible. See her pictures on the back of the book. Every single thing that this woman has written is worth reading. It is worth your time. It is worth your money. Pay for the books, like it's fine. Go to the library, whatever, but pay for these books. It really actually makes a difference. Okay, so I know why the caged bird sings. That was a huge turning point in my personal life, in terms of just understanding that my experience is not everybody else's experience. And that's important to know. The autobiography of Malcolm X. This is an incredible book. This is an incredible person, and it's as told by Alex Haley. Okay, so you guys may know him from Roots. He's an incredible writer, really captures the personality, the life philosophy, and the various kind of changes in life, and changes in philosophy and changes in ideas. Malcolm X was a person where when he was confronted with new information, he came to new conclusions. Okay, so we all need to be listening to that, right? When he got new information, he was open to a new assessment of things. And I think that's really important for everybody. There's a ton of more great stuff in that book. It's truly phenomenal. I think you should read it. The movie is great. The book is better. The next one up is Asada. So this is the autobiography of Asada Shakur. Some people may know her as Tupac's aunt. That is actually how I first learned about her. But let me tell you, you need to know about her regardless of what other people in her family did. Because she's an incredible revolutionary. And this story, you just have to know it. You have to know it. It's so incredible and valuable. And even though I knew a lot about the prison industrial complex, I knew about it in theory. And this book makes it really personal. Like, what does it mean in real life to be caught up in the criminal injustice system and to be a Black woman? So she is an incredible, incredible human being that we all need to be learning about and listening to. And this next one, I don't want you to think this is like, woo, political, yada, yada. This is a very important story about a young man growing up in America, being of mixed races. Okay, so there's some really deep stuff in here. Barack Obama wrote this before he was running for president. Okay, like he probably was thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie. But this is some deep stuff. This is not like, don't look at this like the way you'd read JFK writing about himself. Like, this is a deep story about America. This is a deep story about how we are with each other. And one of the most powerful things in this book is not a spoiler. The president has spoken about this numerous times, but he speaks about how his white grandmother, his mother's mother, when he was a teenager and a young adult, if he came downstairs and it was nighttime, his grandmother would startle because, oh my God, there's this Black man in my house. Okay, we're talking about the child of her child, but that startle response was still there. Okay, that was hurtful to him, and that was something that we need to be aware of as white people, that startle is there and it's bullshit, right? His grandmother was not under any threat. There was no danger. There was no problem. There was just a beautiful grandson showing up downstairs to get a snack or doing whatever. So a lot of really powerful stuff in there. The Audacity of Hope is also really good, but frankly, Dreams from My Father is an American story. Okay, that's a story we need to know. We need to read it. This is actually a compilation. So it's called Braided Lives. And it's an anthology of multicultural American writing. So it's a lot of women authors, which is great. I actually kind of want to show you guys a table of contents. So it starts with Native American authors, and they're short stories, you guys. So it's not a huge like investment emotionally. You're not writing, you're not reading a whole novel, but you can just get kind of a little bit of a foothold into people's lived experience. So then Hispanic American, this was published quite some time ago. So I think that's probably why the word Hispanic American is there, and as opposed to some of the other terminology that's more common now. African American selections, I want to call your attention to two stories that are here that really like made me a different person. I was a different person after I read these stories, and I've now read them hundreds of times. And every single time, I swear to God, I'm a better person for having read them. And the first one is called Sonny's Blues by James Baldwin. James Baldwin is an incredible human. I'm going to tell you what Toni Morrison said about his legacy in a few minutes. There's a segment from Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And that book, you need to read the whole book. I don't know where my copy is. I've been looking everywhere for it. It would have been the first thing that I put in this stack to talk about. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. If you don't read any of these other things, read that one. Every single thing that she did in her career preserved the American Black history from the South. Okay, so songs and stories and lineages and history and culture would have been completely gone. But Zora Neale Hurston went around and captured those stories. And she got audio recordings, she wrote things down, she recorded songs. Like, there would have been a huge hole in American history without Zora Neale Hurston. And so, read all her stuff. It's really awesome. The other one I want to talk about is Everyday Use by Alice Walker. So as a white person, I had to read this story probably 5 times before I actually understood anything close to what was going on in it, because this is a story that is written about Black people, and I do believe for Black people. So it's talking about kind of what you do with objects. Right? Do you put them into everyday use where they might be ruined? Or do you put them in a special place where they can be honored and revered, but no longer are practical or useful or reasonable in your life? And what was really valuable to me about this story was that white people are not really considered in it. So I got to learn about the internal workings of a Black family that had some diversity in it that I didn't understand, that I didn't know was a thing. I didn't know. How would I know? I know because I read the story, right? Alice Walker put a bunch of emotional energy into putting this out there. And so as white people, we can read that stuff. Theme for English B by Langston Hughes is lovely. But frankly, my favorite Langston Hughes is called Let America Be America Again. And I literally have it right here on I read this every day. So I don't have any Langston Hughes in my stack of things because I cover that every day. He also has one that's really splendid called Tired. So Google that, because I can tell you that is how people are feeling right now. They're tired. Okay, so, and then there are Asian American selections. And so you get a really good kind of primer, and they're, again, like I said, short stories and poetry. So you can kind of dip your feet in. And Braided Lives is the name of this. I've had this book since high school, like this actual book. So I read this in high school, and it left quite an impression on me. I've read it multiple times since then. Okay, next one. This is my favorite guy. Especially favorite recently because he's voting for Joe Biden, you guys. He says Trump is a liar. He says Trump is lying all the time. But yeah, it turns out to be true. So, Colin Powell, really, really smart, really brave, really strategic. Like, I don't care if he was a Republican, because this man, so this is called life leadership, right? Worked for me. So you can also see in here. So I used to supervise interns. About a really nice. I used to supervise interns and staff, varieties of people, and there were several parts of this book that I always had them read. So this is actually like his personal story and also how to be a good leader. And the cool thing about Colin Powell, there's so many cool things about Colin. The random thing that I know about Colin Powell is my fiance Chris used to clean his pool. And so Colin Powell is a person who treats the guy who cleans his pool with respect. And I really respect that. I think that the way he has run his teams, I think the way he has organized his life make a lot of sense. Oh, and his official portrait is to die for. I saw it when it was unveiled at the National Portrait Gallery. And I literally, like, I took myself out for dinner with this book and I got a glass of wine. We hung out. So, yeah, Colin Powell, good stuff. Really good book. It worked for me in life and leadership. That's what it's called. This next one's a little bit different. So many of you know that I lived in Hawaii for a while. And when I lived there, I was really honored to be able to work with a lot of youth. So a lot of the folks that grow up in Hawaii, people who live on the mainland think it's like this beautiful, like every palm trees, we're on vacation, everything is super, right? But for people who actually grow up there, they can often feel really isolated, really like they don't have a lot of options. They don't have a lot of higher education options. They don't have a lot of career advancement options. One of the girls that I worked with, when I was saying how much I really loved being there, because I did really love living there, she said to me, I can't wait to get off this rock. And that was how a lot of the young people that I worked with felt. I did tutoring and I did just kind of like college prep, helping people, move forward in their education and whatnot. Anyway, so this book is called Name Me Nobody. And the cool thing about this particular copy is it's signed by the author. So, you can't really see that very well, but let's see. Okay, so it's signed by the author. And it's signed by the author because I did a special reading group with this book. It's a young adult novel. It's a really easy read in terms of like the vocabulary and whatnot that's in there. It's not actually a really easy read in terms of the content that's in there. In any case,